Everybody dies, sooner or later.
A grieving little boy stands in the Eyrie. His mother is dead. She went out the moon door, 700 feet straight down. And a kind man puts a comforting hand on the situation and offers the boy some gentle wisdom about death.
People die at their dinner tables, die in their beds. Everybody dies, sooner or later.
It's almost sweet. There's just one small problem. The kind man comforting this child is the man who murdered his mother. The boy is grieving a loss that the man standing in front of him personally created days earlier with one push. Welcome to the single creepiest life lesson in Game of Thrones. Now, this speech has become famous online for a completely different reason. People call it a prophecy. Littlefinger names 3 ways people die: at their dinner tables, in their beds, squatting over their chamber pots. And sure enough, those match the deaths of Joffrey, Shae, and Tywin. And that's a fun fact. But it's also only half the story, and honestly, the wrong half. Because one of those 3 deaths had already happened when he says this. And Littlefinger is the one who caused it. So this isn't just foreshadowing. What you're actually watching is a man confessing to a murder out loud to a child disguised as philosophy, while setting up his next move at the same time. That's what I want to unpack today, beat by beat. First, some quick context. We're in Season 4, Episode 8, at the Eyrie, days after Littlefinger shoved his brand new wife, Lysa Arryn, through the moon door.
He was an odd fish, everyone knew that. Suicide. She adored that boy of her.
The Lords of the Vale held a hearing about her death, and Sansa Stark just saved his life with a carefully mixed cocktail of truth and lies. Cleared of suspicion, Littlefinger announces that young Robin Arryn, Lysa's son, the Lord of the Vale, should leave the nest and tour his lands. And on the way out, he gives the boy his little speech about death. So let's start with the situation itself, because the setup is doing half the work here. Littlefinger has just survived the most dangerous moment of his life. I mean, think about where he was an hour of screen time ago, locked in a room with the Vale Lords, one bad testimony away from taking the same 700-foot exit as his wife. He walked in with no army, no allies, and his fate resting entirely on a teenage girl he'd betrayed the moment he kissed her in the snow, and he walked out clean. So when he strolls up to Robin, this isn't a man reflecting on mortality. This is a man who just beat death on the biggest bet of his career, and he's practically glowing. Which brings us to the speech. At first glance, this reads as a stepfather doing his awkward best. The boy is scared to leave home, scared of the world, scared of dying, and the adult reassures him that death comes for everyone everywhere, so hiding from it is pointless. Standard, tough love parenting, Westeros edition, but peel back the layer, and every single sentence is a move. You see, Robin Arryn isn't just a sad kid. He's the Lord of the Vale, the one piece on the board that Littlefinger now controls completely. A sheltered, sickly, breastfed until yesterday boy who has never left this castle is easy to manage inside the Eyrie, sure. But a lord who never appears before his own bannermen is a lord whose protector starts looking like a kidnapper. Littlefinger needs Robin visible, needs him touring the Vale, needs the lords to see the boy standing next to his loyal, trustworthy stepfather. The thing is, the speech isn't really about conquering fear. It's about getting the asset out of the vault and into circulation. And notice who's doing the teaching about taking charge of your life. The man telling this orphan to seize control of his own destiny is, at that exact moment, seizing control of it for him. Robin will go where Littlefinger points, meet who Littlefinger chooses, and learn what Littlefinger teaches. It's the oldest trick in the manipulator's handbook. Make the puppet feel like the puppeteer. Now for the part everyone remembers, the 3 deaths: dinner tables, beds, chamber pots. And here's where the internet usually gets the story backwards, so let's set it straight.
People die at their dinner tables.
When Littlefinger says this, Joffrey is already dead. He was poisoned at his own wedding feast 6 episodes earlier, died at his dinner table, purple-faced, in front of half of King's Landing. And who arranged that poisoning? Littlefinger did, together with Olenna Tyrell. He smuggled the poison into the wedding inside Sansa's necklace. He built that death with his own hands. So listen to what this man is actually doing. He's standing in front of a grieving child and casually, almost lazily, describing a murder he committed as if it's just one of life's little truths. People die at dinner tables. Yes, Petyr. They do, especially when you poison them. It's like an arsonist giving a neighborhood lecture on fire safety, pointing at the burned down houses as examples. Houses he lit himself. The lecture is accurate. Every word checks out. The only thing missing is the small detail of who was holding the match. And here's the truly twisted part. He does the exact same thing with the boy's mother. He tells Robin, the philosophical version of a shrug, about a woman he threw through a door in the floor less than a week ago. The speech isn't wisdom. It's a killer walking his own crime scenes and calling it a tour of the human condition. He's hiding 2 confessions in plain sight in front of the one audience guaranteed not to catch them, a 10-year-old. But, and this is where it gets interesting for us as viewers, the other 2 deaths haven't happened yet. In their beds, 2 episodes later, Tyrion finds Shae in his father's bed and strangles her with the chain around her neck. Squatting over their chamber pots, minutes after that, Tyrion puts 2 crossbow bolts into Tywin Lannister, the most powerful man in the world, sitting on the privy. So within the same season, the show cashes all 3 of Littlefinger's checks. Now to be clear, Littlefinger didn't plan those last 2. He has no idea what's coming in King's Landing. That's not him scheming. That's the writers speaking through him. They handed their most dishonest character 3 sentences of absolute truth and let him deliver the show's whole world view without knowing it. No title protects you. No walls protect you. Death doesn't care if you're a king at your own wedding or the richest man alive with your pants down. Valor Morgulis, basically, translated from High Valyrian into the native language of a schemer. Meanwhile, spare a moment for Robin in all this, because everyone always treats this kid as a punchline, and look, the show invites that. The breastfeeding, the tantrums, the wanting to make people fly. Every scene he's in is staged for you to roll your eyes at him, right? But strip away the comedy, and what's left is genuinely sad. He's a sick, sheltered little boy whose father was poisoned, whose mother just fell to her death, and whose only remaining protector is the man responsible. Robin has no idea. He never finds out. Not in this scene, not in this season, not ever. The show ends and this boy still doesn't know. He stands there, absorbing life lessons from his mother's killer, nodding along, grateful. You know what makes it worse? He actually takes the advice. He leaves the nest. He grows up. He turns out more or less fine. The one lesson that genuinely helped him came from the man who orphaned him. Of everyone in this show who gets played, nobody gets played more completely, for longer, with less chance of ever knowing it, than Robin Arryn. He's not the joke of this scene, he's the victim of it. And from Sansa's side of the room, this whole episode lands differently. She just told her first great lie.
Tell us what happened to your arm.
She stepped through those doors.
And look at how well she told it, because this is the scene where the student announces herself. She stands in front of the Vale Lords, weeping, trembling, and delivers a story that's maybe 80% true. Her real name, her real suffering, the real kiss in the snow, downgraded to something innocent. She wraps one crucial lie in so much genuine truth that hardened old lords eat it out of her hand. That's not a frightened girl getting lucky. That's a Littlefinger technique, executed at a Littlefinger level, on her very first attempt. And the man himself has to stand there and watch, not knowing until the last second whether she'd save him or bury him. She saved a murderer, her own aunt's murderer, because she calculated that the devil she knows is safer than the lords she doesn't. Watch what the episode does with her right after. She reappears transformed, dressed in black, feathers on her shoulders, a completely new woman descending that staircase. The little bird has started studying the mockingbird. So when Littlefinger lectures Robin about taking charge of your life, the irony is standing just off to the side. The person in the Eyrie who actually absorbed that lesson isn't the boy he's grooming. It's the girl he thinks he's grooming. Which brings us to the deeper layer of this whole moment. Everyone frames this speech as Littlefinger predicting the future, but flip it around. It's really the show predicting Littlefinger. Because think about what the three deaths have in common. Joffrey, Shae, Tywin, all three die in places where they felt completely safe. A wedding under your own family's banners, a bed in the heart of your protector's chambers, a privy inside your own fortress. Again, this is the pattern this show hammers over and over. Safety in this world is the most dangerous feeling there is. The moment you believe the walls will hold is the moment someone's already inside them. And nobody in this story preaches that gospel harder than Littlefinger. Chaos is a ladder, remember. He told us that a season earlier. He's the man who profits every time someone else feels secure. And yet, years later, where does he die? In a great hall he thought he controlled, surrounded by a family he thought he'd split apart, sentenced by the girl he taught, executed mid-sentence while begging on his knees. The safest room in his world, right up until it wasn't. Remember that hearing at the start of this episode, the one where his life hung on Sansa's word, and her word saved him. His actual death is that same hearing, replayed years later with one change. This time, she tells the truth. The man who understood better than anyone that death visits you wherever you feel untouchable, died feeling untouchable. Every word of his little speech to Robin was true. He just forgot that it applied to him too. So that's the real genius of this small, quiet, easy-to-skip scene. In under a minute, it gives you a confession nobody hears, a manipulation nobody stops, a prophecy nobody planned, and, hiding underneath all of it, the show's coldest rule about power and safety, delivered by the one man who should have known to follow it. He said it himself to a grieving child in a castle in the sky. Everybody dies sooner or later.